my name's Kim, and today's book is Button Soup. It's by Walt Disney Productions. I hope you like Daisy Duck. A long time ago, a traveler named Daisy was riding the stagecoach out west. She was going to visit her old Uncle Scrooge. Daisy was tired and thirsty and very hungry. She could hardly wait to reach her uncle's house. There she is in the stagecoach, going on her way. When the stagecoach pulled into town, everyone came out to see who was in it. Goofy the sheriff walked up to Daisy. "Howdy," he said. "What can I do for you?" "I'm looking for Scrooge McDuck," said Daisy. "Scrooge McDuck," cried Goofy the sheriff. "If you're as hungry and as tired as you look, you should go to the hotel." Then he pointed to a little yellow house. "Old Scrooge lives there," he said, "but no one ever pays him a visit." There she is, getting out of the stagecoach, and there's the little yellow house he's pointing to. "That's right," said Miss Clarabelle. "Old Scrooge must be the stingiest fellow in the West." Clarabelle's the cow in the picture. "Yup," said Goofy. "He's the stingiest fellow in the West, all right." "I have met stingy fellows before," said Daisy. "Maybe I can teach my uncle a lesson." So Daisy went straight to the yellow house and knocked on the door. Look, he says no trespassing. I don't think she's going to listen. When Uncle Scrooge opened the door, Daisy threw her arms around his neck. "Surprise!" she cried. "I've come to pay a visit, Uncle." Scrooge did not look happy to see his niece. "I did not ask you to come," he shouted. Look at him shouting. But Daisy did not listen to him. She walked into the house. "I'm very hungry, Uncle," she said. "What do you have to eat?" "You won't find any food here," said Scrooge. He tried to hide some dirty dishes. "There's no food in the house," he cried. "Wow, look at all those dirty dishes. Who wants to wash those, huh?" "Poor Uncle," said Daisy. "You must be starved." And she went to the cupboard and took out a big black pot. There on the shelf was a basket of fried chicken. "Ha ha," she thought. "My uncle's not as poor as he pretends to be." There she is, getting the big black pot. Daisy began to fill the pot with water, and Uncle Scrooge jumped up and down. "You cannot cook here," he said. "I just told you I have no food." Look at him. He looks kind of upset. But Daisy did not listen to him. She lit a fire under the pot. "I don't need any food," she said. Her uncle's mouth fell open. "What in the world can you cook without food?" he asked. Daisy took out an old red button. She held it under her uncle's nose and rolled it slowly between her fingers. "With just this button," she said, "I can cook enough soup to fill the pot." Do you believe that? Could she really cook soup with a button? I think she's going to do something else. "You can make soup with just one button," said Scrooge. "I don't believe it." He watched Daisy drop the red button into the pot. "What do you call it?" asked Uncle Scrooge. "Button soup," said Daisy. I don't know. He's checking it out. Uncle Scrooge watched Daisy sniff the soup. She thought. "The stingiest fellow in the West is getting curious." Now Uncle Scrooge sniffed the soup, but he didn't smell a thing. Daisy began to stir very quickly. As she stirred, she said, "Whenever I make this soup at home, I always use some salt and pepper. But since you have no food in the house, I guess you have no salt and pepper." "I don't have any food," said Scrooge, "but I always save some salt and pepper for a rainy day." I think he's starting to fall for it. He lit a candle, opened the door in the ceiling, and climbed up into the attic. He must be hiding his salt and pepper, I think. The attic walls were covered, wait till you see the picture, with jars of spice. Scrooge held up his candle to see them better. He picked out jars of salt and pepper to add to the button soup. Look at all those jars of spices he has up there. Daisy poured the salt and pepper into the pot. Uncle Scrooge watched. He could hardly wait to taste the button soup. Daisy began to stir again. As she stirred, she said, I once made this soup with an old soup bone. It was really delicious. But if you have no food, one button will have to do. If all you need is an old soup bone, said Scrooge, I might be able to find one. He took a lantern and ran down, now this time downstairs into the cellar. Scrooge's cellar looked like just any butcher shop. He had hams and chickens and turkeys and beef. He picked out a juicy bone to add to the button soup. Look at all that meat. And he said he had no food. When Scrooge came back with the bone, Daisy dropped it in the pot, and the soup began to bubble and boil. It smells good, said Scrooge. This soup won a blue ribbon at the state fair, said Daisy, but that time I used potatoes and carrots. If the blue ribbon soup had potatoes and carrots, you shall have them too, said her uncle, and now he ran out to the barn. Up in the hayloft, Scrooge had vegetables, potatoes and carrots and big heads of cabbage. He grabbed a pitchfork and tossed the hay. He found some potatoes and carrots to add to the button soup. She's faking him out, getting all this stuff in her soup. By this time, the soup smelled so good, Uncle Scrooge was dying to taste it. And every time Daisy named something that would make the soup even better, Uncle Scrooge rushed off to find it. He ran to the woodshed for onions and celery. He milked the cow to get Daisy some cream. He dug up his garden to get her some turnips. And he carried everything to the big black pot. Look at all that work he's doing. He's putting the milk in. You like milk? Oops. At last, the button soup was ready to taste. This is too much soup for me, said Daisy, and this is too much soup for you. Let's ask someone to share it with us. Share it, cried Scrooge. Let's pour it in jars and save it. Food is hard to get. But Uncle Scrooge, said Daisy, don't you remember we made this soup from just one button? That's right, said Scrooge. So we did. Not really. So Daisy ran to everyone in town. She ran to Goofy the sheriff. She ran to the ice cream parlor to get Miss Clarabelle. She ran to the general store for Mistress Minnie. She ran to the barber shop for Mickey and Cowboy Donald. And she told them all to come to Scrooge McDuck's house. There they are. We've got Goofy and the cow and Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. When they came in, Scrooge gave him a bowl. You are very clever, said Miss Clarabelle. Scrooge is not the stingiest fellow in the West anymore. And Daisy only winked her eye. Can you wink? See if you can wink. Soon they all sat down to a button soup feast, and it really was delicious. What a clever niece I have, said Scrooge. She made this soup with just one button. Look how happy and enjoying all the soup they are. When the time came for Daisy to leave, Scrooge went to the stagecoach to see her off. Come back to visit me soon, Daisy, he said. He's saying goodbye. After all, thought Scrooge, such clever nieces don't grow on every bush. So he didn't figure it out, I don't think. He should have, but I don't think he did. So hopefully they enjoyed their soup. Maybe sometime soon you can have some soup. And hopefully no one got the button. I bet you they took it out before she put it in the bowls. Bye.